guys, welcome back to another episode of the Whisky Diaries. We're here on site at the Talisker Distillery in the beautiful island of Skye. What a trip. It took us about 7 hours to drive all the way from Orkney all the way to Skye. We crossed a beautiful bridge, the Skye Bridge, to get over here. We stayed overnight. The island and the trip, the road, everything was stunning. So beautiful. Like, it's really worth the trip. We went to the Talisker Distillery tour. We got just the basic tour. It's the only one they offer. Gordon was the gentleman that runs us through, and he basically it's just a really standard tour. To be honest, I'm always trying to be as positive as I can, but even though the trip and everything was stunning and the whiskey is amazing, obviously you can't say anything bad about Talisker. The tour itself was actually quite lacking. The tour guy Gordon, even though he was very nice and very friendly, he didn't allow any questions until the end of the tour, so we weren't allowed to basically ask any questions. The tour only lasted for about 45 minutes, and then they basically blast over the whole thing. They don't talk about any particular aspects of the distillation. They don't say anything. They basically tell you how whiskey is made and a couple of bits and pieces of what is different about Talisker, and then they just take you to the tasting room, in which you basically taste 3 of the core range. There's only one distillery edition bottle. Sorry, distillery only bottle. But then it's just a 10-year-old and a distiller's editions. They're more also casks. So on and on. I would say to come to this distillery if you really want to come and see Skye, because the island alone is worth it. It's absolutely beautiful, but the tour in itself is just, you know more about Talisker just by drinking it and enjoying it at home. They actually come into the distillery, which is really sad, because we made it a long way to come over here. It must be because I have a feeling that it has to do with something with how COVID and lack of staffing, or the fact that they just want to pump tours through. We were a part of a 16 people group. A lot of those people didn't know anything about whiskey, which is fine. That's how you come here to learn and everything. But I'm assuming that's why they don't allow you to ask questions, just to steer away from the tour and just make sure that they are on schedule. Regardless of that, well, after the tour, I was able to put Gordon aside for 5 to 10 minutes and ask all the questions that we couldn't do in the tour. So we got some pretty good information about how things are done. But all, we didn't learn anything that we didn't know before. And from other, if you see other reviews of other Taliskers that we've done, like the 41, all the distillers editions and stuff, you can find all the information there. The distillery was opening. It was opened in 1830 by 2 brothers. In the 1960s, they actually had a fire, completely destroyed the distillery. It took about 2 years to rebuild. The water source comes from 2 water springs that come literally behind me. There's a hill, and it's all gravity fed to the distillery. Gordon couldn't tell me the name of the springs, and I couldn't find them on the map either, but apparently it's just a standard water that goes through the distillery. The barley comes from Black Isles in Inverness, like many other distilleries. They do a Concord type of barley that is basically it's an amalgamation of two different barleys. The ratio of grist, he couldn't tell me as well, but he guessed that it's about 17% flour, 70% of is grist, and then the rest is all husk. The mill actually survived the explosion in the 60s, so basically it's untouched, and it's the poorest mill. That mill that basically every other distillery uses, and it went broke because they make such a good mill that they just don't break. So that's really cool. The mash tun, he didn't know exactly what size of the mash tun was, but he guessed about 67,000 liters, because that's how much water goes through the tank. It's a mix between stainless steel and a copper dome. They do 2 waters. Apparently, both waters goes at 67 degrees just to get all the sugars out of the mashing process, which I find is quite odd as well. 67 usually goes for the first one, and then you keep increasing the water. But that's what Gordon told me. Then they sell the leftovers and everything. It gets sold to cattle farmers and everything around here. Fermentation tanks, they have 8 of them. They're basically Canadian pine wood tanks. Gordon mentioned that they're really proud of those tanks, and they get redone every 50 years or so, and he's adamant that pine wood actually does a thing to the fermentation tanks, to the fermenting process, but each distillery has its own ways. It's a discussion for a later date. Basically the wort comes at 10% ABV. The fermentation is for 72 hours, and the wood tanks are 53,000 liters. Then we jump into the stills. They have 3 spirit stills and 2 wash stills. The wash stills are huge, 14,706 liters. That's actually written on the stills themselves. They have a very particular type of arm, lean arm, that is basically straight 90 degrees, and it doesn't go thinner. It's basically straight. Then, you gotta love this island weather, out of nowhere, from rainbows to rain. Then, so the 3 spirit stills are a lot smaller, 11,000 liters, and then the hard, Gordon couldn't specify as well, but we guessed around 16%, like a lot of distilleries. They have 2 warehouses on site, but they're very small. All of Talisker since the 1800s, all Talisker has been aged off-site in Glasgow. At the moment, they carry 5.5 million casks aging at any given time. The tasting basically was pretty average. It was just a Talisker 10, Talisker Distillery exclusive, and a Distillers edition. The Distillery exclusive gets aged in 3 types of casks. One is basically is a rejuvenated cask that basically gets shaped back and recharged. Then this is a refill butt, and then lastly on a heavily charged butt. It was actually really delicious whiskey. We bought it, but we're not going to review that one. We bought in the distillery. The one that we're going to review today is the Talisker 27, currently unavailable in Australia, so we decided just to buy this and take it home. This is basically similar to the distillers only bottling. It's 3 maturations, but it differs on the last barrel. The first cask is a refill cask. The second cask is a heavily charged cask, and the last cask is a European oak puncheons. I'm assuming some type of sherry. 58% ABV, so all of it is cask strength. Beautiful box with bottle. Oh, this is bottle 1 of 2000. So look at us, straight from the distillery. I have not tried this whiskey before, so this is quite exciting for me. Talisker, regardless of what you think about the distillery tour or everything, the whiskey that they do is absolutely amazing. They just don't do a bad whiskey, so such a shame that the distillery the tour doesn't match the whiskey, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you're drinking and you're enjoying the whiskey for what it is. So that is a 27-year-old. Hopefully it doesn't fall on the rocks. Here we go. There we go. And then, yeah, you get that beautiful Talisker, the smoke that comes through. It's a lot softer than you would get from something so strong as Isla. They didn't mention as well, obviously you know that Talisker is dried by, well, the malting is dried by peat. They don't use full peat. They use a certain amount of peat just to give it that characteristic smoke. Oh, that's delicious. A 58% ABV. It's actually quite smooth. Sorry. It does have a little bit of a punch at the end, but the first flavor that you get the sweetness from the American oak. And obviously, when you recharge a barrel, when you heavily charged barrels, will give a lot of more vanilla taste. So you definitely get the vanilla and the toffee. But then at the end, you can definitely feel the sherry coming through. Like you get all those dry berries, dry fruits, dry apricots, kind of flavors that you get through a classic sherry oak. Again, the whiskey is delicious. The site, everything has been incredible. The distillery was a little bit fell short, but it's still great to see. So if you want to do a trip and visit this beautiful island, beautiful people, and have a look at the distillery on the same day, that's great too as well. Also, if you don't know much about whiskey and you're doing a tour about Scotland, I would suggest to start with this one, because it's actually quite simple and easy to understand, and they go through all the process about whiskey. But if you're a seasoned whiskey drinker and you've been to many distilleries, I would probably skip the tour along and just enjoy the island in itself. Anyway guys, thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time, and if you have any questions, please let us know. Any requests, any recommendations, we're here to listen. Anyway guys, thank you very much. Slán Jabá, and we'll see you next time.